I'm going to tell you about my special interest in Victor Hugo because I can't stop thinking about it, and I don't think anybody particularly is interested in listening to me. So I'm just going to talk about it like I'm talking to myself, but if you want to listen. Okay, so this all started when I was a little girl, and my mom would put songs that she liked on my MP3 player for me to listen to. And she was a fan of Les Mis, so a couple of these songs were from some stage production of Les Mis. They were Castle on a Cloud and On My Own. And as a little girl, I didn't have any context for these songs. I did not know what they were about. Nevertheless, I listened to them on repeat, and I grew to love them. And I imagine maybe what was happening in the songs, but I don't know. Then in 2012, as you may know, the film version of the musical came out. And as my mom was a fan, she took me to see it. But I was 11, so I remember coming out of the theater feeling really confused, asking my mom all these questions. I don't think I really understood what was going on. Also, it's like a 1,500-page book condensed into 2.5 hours, so it gets a little confusing, I think. Anyway, so as I was growing up, Les Mis was mostly just a thing that I associate with my mom. As I grew older, I understood it more and enjoyed it, but it was really just something that reminded me of her. But then my mom died in 2016, and as the years passed, I wanted something that would help me feel connected to her. And then one day in August 2018, I was in my local library, and I saw on the shelf the Julie Rose translation of Les Miserables. And I thought this would be the perfect thing to help me connect with my mom, even though I still don't know whether she ever read the book. So I read it, and it was tough because it was very different from the musical. It included so many things that are not in the musical. It started with this huge backstory about Bishop Muriel, and at first I didn't even know who this guy was. And there's this digression in the Battle of Waterloo. I had a tough time getting through that. But I actually ended up finishing this thing in 18 days because it ended up being a page turner, and I grew to really enjoy it. I remember when I finished it very vividly. It was 1 a.m, and I was under my covers with my little reading lamp in my dad's house when Valjean dies, and I was sobbing, like trying to be quiet because it was 1 a.m. But I had grown to love the characters, the masterfully written, intricate plot, the beautiful themes. It was breathtaking. It's a breathtaking masterpiece. So I performed passages from it in speech team. I read more of his works. I haven't read all of them yet, but I've read quite a few. 5 of his novels, poetry, a play. I saw Rigoletto, which is by Verdi. Most people don't know that it's actually based on his play, The King of Muses himself, Victor Hugo play. So yes, I've seen many adaptations, film adaptations that are not the musical. I try to get my hands on everything that I can. And my first semester in college, I studied abroad in France. I tried to learn French, but it didn't agree with me. I quit after freshman year. But living in France gave me the opportunity to see Besançon, some places in Paris, although his house was closed for renovations. But I very vividly remember seeing his tomb in the Pantheon, and it was so moving for me. I was weeping by his tomb for half an hour, and I was getting some very weirded out stares, but such is life. And actually my college, what do they call them? Application letters. It was about Les Mis. My point point is, I have become very invested in this author. My university has a special collections library, and it actually has a Victor Hugo collection. I went to visit it, and it's his actual letters and letters from his mistress to him, but they're not reproductions or copies, they're his actual letters. So I got to touch them and read them, although I don't know French. It was so surreal. From that experience and a couple others just going to special collections, I have actually decided that I want to be a special collections library archivist. So that's how much this author has impacted my life. I'm an English major right now. I'm studying romanticism. Everything I can get my hands on about Victor Hugo, I just eat it up. And I think that his writing is so important. Every single one of his books, the themes are just so poignant and relevant even today. And what gets me the most is he died 150 years ago, and even though not everyone really wants to read a 1,500 page book full of digressions, it might be boring for some people, and I get that. A lot of his writing might be boring for some people. That's fine, but the adaptations that come from that, like Rigoletto, obviously Les Mis the musical, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney version, everybody knows those things, and everybody knows those stories, and they love them. And I love that. That's so moving to me, and I think Victor Hugo would be so happy. Actually, his play, The King Amuses Himself, it was banned after the first production because Louis Philippe, who was the king at the time, the play did not agree with him because it was satirizing this king that was modeled after Louis Philippe, so it was banned. But Verdi came along and he wrote the opera Rigoletto, and it was actually performed in Paris, and Victor Hugo went to see it, and although he wasn't credited with the story being based on his play, he was so happy that it was being performed in Paris and that so many people were coming to see it, because what's really important is not I don't know how to say this. What's really important is that literature affects people, that his message gets out to people, and that it could make some changes. And that he actually, sorry, I'm getting too excited, I'm stuttering. But he believed in literature. He believed in literature's power to change the world. And he thought that by the 20th century, that hate wouldn't exist anymore, that war wouldn't exist. Well, that did not happen. But just that sentiment, that art can convey these so important values and messages, and sorry, you know what I mean. Anyway, I think that you should give Victor Hugo's writings a chance. And I get it, Les Mis is long, and you might not have time. I don't have time to read books like that all the time. But maybe he actually wrote a book called The Last Day of a Condemned Man, which is beautiful. It's about what the title says. So you're ready. But you can read it in a couple hours in an afternoon. So please just give it a chance. And this writer has been so important to my life and to the lives of so many people. Yeah, that's my speech. Let me know if you read it or if you already have some thoughts about Victor Hugo, and I don't know, what do you think about art? Yeah, this has been very important to me, and have a good day. Thanks for listening.